Hi, I'm Emily, and today I'll be addressing the topic of foreign language education in America. So for some context, I'm sure all of us have taken some sort of foreign language education course in our higher education. So I'll be talking about foreign language education in our elementary schools. And the controversy here is that some parents feel that learning a secondary foreign language in elementary schools is detrimental to their child's ability to learn English and gain literacy and fluency in their first language. However, my proposition today is if it was mandatory to learn a secondary language in American public elementary schools, then we would have a more advanced citizenry. And my objective standard here today is that for advanced citizenry is scientific evidence and socialization skills. So my three main arguments will be that 1, it is better to acquire multiple languages when we are younger. 2, that being bilingual has many neurological benefits. And 3, bilinguals have an increased socialization skills. So back to my first point, that it's easier and more relevant to learn language as a child than as an adult. According to a study done by professors of early childhood development published in the British Journal of Educational Technologies, which is funded by the British Educational Research Association, they say that one of the most important areas of early childhood development is language acquisition, and that vocabulary that is acquired early is significant for further language development and language capacities. So this goes to show that it is better for us to start learning multiple languages at a young age because we have the capabilities to. And that the sooner we begin learning, the more that we can expand the boundaries of our mind throughout our life. And this quote also goes to show that it's most beneficial to us to start learning languages younger than later on in life, because the sooner we start, the more we can learn. A big reason why I think that this is important is because America is already a really prosperous country economically. However, one of the areas that we lack is our foreign language education. And according to a Pew Research study, which is a credible research and polling organization, across Europe, students typically begin studying their first foreign language as a required school subject between ages 6 and 9. And they also state that 92% of European students learn a foreign language in school. And this number is significant because if you compare it to 20% of K through 12 students who are enrolled in a foreign language class. From these numbers, we can deduce that Americans do not value foreign language education as much as Europeans in our public education system. And in order to go back to my argument about being more advanced, if we were to advance ourselves in this area, we would be competitive with our European counterparts again. And another reason why this is also important is because there are already some successful bilingual education programs in our elementary schools. And in those programs, bilingual students actually perform better than their monolingual peers. In a research done by RAND Corporation, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan research organization for public policy changes, they did a study in Portland, Oregon, where they randomly selected public school students and randomly assigned them to dual language immersion programs, where they outperformed their peers on state tests in reading by 13% of a standard deviation in grade 5 and by 22% in grade 8. And they say that these findings are consistent with other research that finds dual language immersion programs help learners become proficient in English at higher rates by middle school and high school. Now this is important because it assuages the parents' concern and the controversy from earlier that it compromises your ability to learn 2 languages at once. And it also goes to show that it proves my first point back again, that the sooner we begin learning a language, the better we become because you just keep advancing the higher the grade level you are. On to my second point, that being bilingual has many neurological benefits. There's an improved cognitive function in bilinguals. According to a study done by Georgetown Medical Center, bilingual individuals perform better compared with monolinguals on tasks that require attention, inhibition, and short-term memory, collectively termed executive control. This goes to show that bilinguals are more intelligent and have more neurological pathways in their brains that increase their intelligence. And my last point is that being bilingual increases our socialization skills. According to Kylie Hall, a bachelor in childhood development from Cal State University, San Jose, By truly learning another language, it requires a person to dwell deep into that particular culture, and you also understand their ways. So this is advantageous because we're able to connect with more cultures. And in America especially, because we have so many different cultures and we're a cultural blending pot, it's important to be able, it gives us an advantage and makes us more advanced if we're able to connect with all these different cultures. And then it brings me to my last little point about that bilinguals have a better social cue recognition and an increase in empathy. And my quote here is from Dr. Rebecca Solomon, who has a PhD in childhood development. And she says that society as a whole benefits as bilinguals will grow to become caring global citizens who can communicate with and appreciate people from other countries and cultures. And again, my inference here is that an increase in socialization skills is a benefit to our society because in our modern trend of globalization, a more progressive and inclusive society is going to be more advanced and more beneficial. Which leads me into my conclusion that if there was a mandatory foreign language requirement in our public elementary schools, then overall, Americans would be more intelligent and have increased socialization skills. And acquiring these skills ultimately produces a more advanced society.
All right, the idea that parents object to this, I think, is mostly asserted on your opening section, but I do think that you do suggest that there might be some reservations that people have about learning multiple languages simultaneously as children. I think that would, if you could develop that a little bit more, there'd be more of an argument here. I do think that you outline a lot of things that are probably beneficial. I'm not sure how controversial some of those points are. I did think that the idea that language acquisition is easier earlier, and it produces some benefits. That seems like it's pretty straightforward. The need for the second languages in some parts of the world versus the United States, I think, is maybe the place where there's going to be a little bit of controversy from the response speaker on this point. The proof on the second point on neurological benefits was a little thin. You had one piece of information that suggested that there's an impact on executive function, and there's no statistical information on it. It seems like it's reasonable, but that's the only piece of information there, and I'm not sure that that's sufficient to arrive at the conclusion that you're making there. The third point gets to some issues that may be value-based in nature, and there are some questions that probably will crop up from the response speaker on what our priorities ought to be and whether or not some of the things that you're talking about are necessary or needed. Dr. Solomon's quote sounds very generic in nature. It's not a bad thing, but it doesn't give me anything that I can hang my hat on and say, well, there's something that's a measurable outcome that we can say that makes it worthwhile. It's kind of oblique, so to speak. The sources, though, are cited very consistently. I like the qualifications that you provide for everybody in the information, and I think it's presented pretty effectively as well. And at the end, I think you do a pretty solid job trying to justify this as an argument and kind of giving us a good summary to finish it off. So, no complaints there. All right, thank you.